Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Norfolk Select Board. My name is Kevin Kalka. To my right, member Jim Lehan, our other member Anita Mecklenburg to my left, and our town administrator Justin Casanova Davis to her left. We're going to kick off our meeting tonight in the same fashion as we always do. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Justin, would you mind giving us a quick preview of what we're going to be going through tonight?
Yes. Good evening. Tonight on the agenda, there's a poll hearing for new development in Seekonk Street. We have the board's appointments for July fiscal year 24. A preliminary letter of intent agreement with Select Energy for a PPA agreement, as well as discussing the Select Board's fiscal year 24 meeting schedule. There'll be a presentation from on the open space and recreation plan with our recreation director and conservation agent. We should have a presentation from the Safe Coalition and just general updates from the board and the town administrator.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right, our first item is the poll hearing for Verizon Eversource. I believe that we have to move to open this public hearing as a preliminary item. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Hearing a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The public hearing is now open. Justin.
Before the board, there's a request, a joint petition from Verizon Eversource for a new pole for the east side of Seekonk Street. We have a representative from Verizon here. We've received approvals from our DPW director, public safety, including Chief Kinney, Chief Hines. There are no concerns on our end. And here we go. Yeah, that was just the background. If you want to, probably want to read the language there.
Do you want me to read it?
We have a public hearing notice. Please go right ahead.
The Select Board for the Town of Norfolk will conduct a public hearing in accordance with Chapter 166, Section 22 of the Massachusetts General Laws on a petition from Verizon New England Incorporated and Eversource Energy and Star Electric for joint pole location to grant petitioners joint or identical locations for and permission to erect and maintain poles, wires, and cables together with anchors, guys, and other such sustaining and protecting fixtures as they may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan marked VZNE Incorporated Plan Number 1A6E1TP, dated April 27, 2023, filed herewith upon, along, and across the following public way or ways of said town. Seekonk Street, Place 1, jointly owned pole number T.73-1X/E.73-1X on the east side of Seekonk Street at a point approximately 628 feet southerly from the center line of Cleveland Street. Also, for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. Petitioners agree to reserve space for one crossarm at the suitable point upon each of said poles for the telephone, fire, and police signal wires belonging to the town and used by it for municipal purposes. This hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, June 20, 2023 at 7 p.m. in Meeting Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Massachusetts, as well as via Zoom, online, video conferencing, remote access.
Thank you, Anita. At this point, we will recognize anybody who's here from Verizon or Eversource, if there's anything you'd like to add before we open it up to the general public.
Good evening, Don Vonner from Verizon. There's not a whole lot I need to add, just that the pole is going across the street from the existing pole. I just went out there, looked at it. It's about 44 feet, and the purpose of it is to bring power across the street to this new development, which I assume has already been. The street is in there, so I assume everything's going well. So,
what development? Sorry, just kidding. Good.
Development.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for Don?
Not at this time.
Done.
No. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will open it up to the general public, as this is a public hearing, if there are any questions or comments on the proposed pole installation. I am seeing none, unless Mr. Hafner's dog counts. Does not. We're getting a thumbs down.
Does not have an opinion about polls.
So in that case,
Someone just joined, but they're, okay, just in case.
All right, we'll take one more sweep. Is anybody looking to provide comment or question related to the pole installation on Seekonk Street for the public hearing? Take that as a no. So in that case, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And our public hearing is now closed. I will also entertain a motion now to approve and grant permission.
Mr. Chairman, I would just want to highlight one thing that our DPW director did want to highlight, that he's requesting that the pole be placed 6 feet off the street. Still the same motion, but I did want to highlight that he wanted to that be reflected in the minutes.
Do we anticipate that being an issue at all?
I looked at the pole stake, it's, I would say, 10 to 12 feet up.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, I move that the board vote to grant permission to Verizon New England Incorporated and Eversource to place one jointly owned pole number T.73-1X/E.73-1X on the east side of Seekonk Street at a point approximately 628 feet southerly from the center line of Cleveland Street.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for coming, Don. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Our next item this evening is our public comment period, where anybody has the opportunity to share with the board for up to 3 minutes. We'll open it up to hand raises, waves in front of your camera, whatever you want to do to get our attention. Please let us know if anybody's interested in public comment tonight. I'm going to take that as a no. All right, our next item is to vote to approve appointments and reappointments to various boards and committees and positions. Justin, anything to lead us in with?
Yes, sir. So in June, the office starts reaching out to our various boards and committees to sort of ascertain who's interested in being reappointed or appointed to boards and committees in town. So we've done that process. In the board's packet is a list of appointments and reappointments to the various boards and committees. And we suggest that the select board consider appointing these people. And we appreciate the volunteerism in town. I do want to make one particular thing. We are going to be promoting on the town's website and social media the vacancies available for various committees. I did want to highlight the cultural council in particular because at the current moment, they don't have a quorum. It's important work. That council allocates grant funding for humanities and arts within the town, so it'd be great to have some other participation there so they can have a quorum. But otherwise, we will be promoting on our website with some nice PowerPoint designs that our team has put on there and put on social media the various vacancies available.
Now, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I was just going to note, Justin, I did see that the Cultural Council is limited by term limits,
Yes.
which makes it very difficult to keep a recurring number of individuals on the committee. Were people still interested in serving, but their term limit was restricting them from doing so?
Yes, they were.
Well, that feels like an opportunity from my perspective.
There's an opportunity to revisit that. It is a requirement for a year, sort of gap for them, but they can return after that 1 year.
I hear the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, far be it from me to deny somebody who's looking to contribute their time towards the betterment of the community. I do wonder what the reason was for instituting a term limit. Jim, do you happen to have any idea?
It's in their bylaw, and it's actually not uncommon. I serve on the Mass Bay Board, and I'm only allowed to serve up to 8 years, and then I have to take a year off. I'm allowed to come back. It's actually a fairly common practice, and I would personally suggest that it's kind of somewhat outlived its usefulness, but because we just don't have enough people. I don't know that would require a town vote. You'd have to get council's opinion on that. I don't know that, but I would certainly I know the folks that want to come back, and they're very, that's a board that you're dedicated to, that you have a passion to. And they have a passion for it, so I would totally support changing it. I'm just not sure how we go about it.
You have to petition the state.
First, I would think whether they want it changed, I think would be the first question. They may not want it. They may like the requirement. I don't know.
No, that's a good point as well. But I mean, if they were still interested in continuing their service without having the year gap, if there's something that we can do to be able to accommodate for that, I think that we should at least run through the motions of finding out what that would take. So Justin, we can take that as a follow-up for a future meeting.
Yeah, it's been that way for as long as I can remember.
Oh.
I just want to sort of clarify, that is sort of a state requirement too, as part of the local cultural councils. They require that little gap of time of service. I don't know the reason.
particular
I don't know the reasoning behind it.
It's a state
yeah.
requirement?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Did not know that. I thought it was just in their bylaws. Oh, well. If it's a state, I think it'd be a little tougher battle.
The exact language is, because I know we have a group of people watching, members of the local and regional cultural council shall be appointed for staggered terms of 3 years, and any such member shall not be appointed to more than 2 consecutive terms.
Gotcha. Okay. Cindy, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, I was. It just had to do, just what Justin explained on the Cultural Council, that we can serve, by the state law, cultural councils can serve 2 3-year terms, and then we have to go off. And so I know there are 3 of us expiring now, and I think probably all of us would love to come back. And I think all of the 3 of us will continue to volunteer, but we cannot serve in an official capacity as voting members.
That answers that.
So I have 2 things, if that's okay. First thing is, when we post these things online, I think it would be useful to have a click so you understand, like, what is the commitment, how often do they meet, so you can, it's not like, oh, I want to be on conservation if you have no idea that they meet monthly, or they meet on Tuesdays, or that, I think the more information we give the public, the better, because it truly does take a village to run a village. And then the second thing is, I want what Jim has there. How did you get that? I'm having some envy.
It was this or bring binoculars to read the one you have.
I'm having some chart envy over here. Big time chart envy.
I know your pain.
I want what Jim has to say.
Do better.
We'll do that.
Do better on that.
Okay.
Do better.
Everybody will get one.
I came in and opposed my will on this because I could
Thank
not
you.
read that sheet.
Well, I'm quite jealous at this moment of your possession there, so.
I'll be glad to, because seeing as I can actually read the names.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
I know, I understand it, yeah. I couldn't read them either.
All right. So, Jim, did you have any questions on the appointee list or any of the positions? Anita, any other questions?
No, not at all.
All right. So I think at this point, I would open it up to anybody that's joining tonight that is up for reappointment, if you had anything to share with the board before we take a vote. Okay. I'll take that as a no, we're good.
Shall I kick it off?
Please, sir.
I move to appoint William Conklin as Veteran Service Officer, 1-year appointment.
So one thing that we did do was we consolidated the motion into one motion for everybody highlighted on the list, so we didn't have to go through each individual one by one. So I would take
Sounds good to me.
a motion to approve all appointees as listed on the sheet in the agenda.
I will second that.
I need the motion first.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
thank
thought you were making the motion.
Oh, no, yeah, I probably should have just done it if I was going to go through saying it, right? So we have our motion from
So
Anita,
moved.
we have our second from Jim. Do we have any further discussion?
Not at this time.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I did just want to make sure I said as well, thank you so much. I think it was 32 people that were just reappointed to boards and committees here in town. I think there's another 70 or so that actually dedicate their time. That's how all this stuff works, is by people giving their time for the betterment of the community. So thank you all very much.
Anita?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
now be glad to share my document with you. again
Thank you.
later.
I know I was having some document envy.
All right, our next item tonight is It is.
I'm having a moment. Look at how beautiful this is.
Basking in the glory of her.
Ready for
different
this?
world now,
Gary
isn't it?
Sullivan. See how I did that? Just like that. Sam Ziegler. Just like that. Elizabeth Lehan. Just like that. It's pretty awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jim.
You're welcome.
Our next item this evening is to vote to sign a preliminary letter of intent agreement with Select Energy. Justin, take it away.
Yes, so with me tonight is our facilities director, Matt Hafner. In the board's packet, there is a memo, but just give some background. Fall town meeting, 2021, town meeting authorized the select board to enter into a power purchase agreement with a solar energy provider for solar arrays on the police station. Matt has particularly really been spearheading this effort and working with Select. He's gotten the town into power options, which essentially has gotten some sort of a solar array proposal that with significant savings for the town. As part of this process, the MEC Board of Directors met on June 14th to sign a letter of intent with Select for a carport proposal. This proposal would be solar arrays on the rooftop of the police station in conjunction with that. But it is a separate sort of proposal. There's two meters, one for MEC and one for the town. So in order to have a chance at agreeing to a PPA agreement, Select has asked us to sign a letter of intent to install and maintain solar panels for up to 25 years. This letter of intent, I want to be clear, it doesn't lock the town into this agreement, but it does formalize the town's intent to pursue this agreement with Select and sort of hopefully, as part of the process, lock us into Block 7 incentives, which are more significant than Block 8 incentives. In the memo, I just put a couple of highlights. There's no upfront cost for the town. Select will install, finance, operate, and maintain the system. The PPA energy supply rate would be fixed for the duration of the term, and the projected savings would be around $428,000 over the 25-year period. I do want to really thank Matt Hafner, our facilities director, for the work in helping to get this proposal moved forward, and the Select, our partners at Select. I think it's a great opportunity for the town to realize some savings. In the packet, there's a general PowerPoint with some further information as well.
Thank you, Justin. Mr. Hafner, anything you'd like to add?
Sorry about that. No, Justin captured it perfectly.
Very good, thank you.
Comment, if I may, sir.
Go right ahead.
Matt, thanks for doing this, and it's deja vu, isn't it, buddy?
Yes.
Yeah. This was part of the original plan for the fire station to begin with, and we just weren't able to do it at that time. But, Matt, I want to thank you for all the work you've done on this. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. It's going to be very helpful for the town's finances moving forward.
No question.
And it'll help us with the our green community, taking the steps to continue our greenness. And it's the way we're doing it through Power Options has so many safeguards for the towns. It's puts the town at a lot less risk than going out to a different style of procurement. So they're ranked the company that we want to do. They're ranked like the highest in the state for satisfaction and customer service, and it's a great deal. So we're looking forward to working with them.
And you did make a great point that I just wanted to really highlight, Jim, was that this has always been part of the plan for the police station. From the get-go, this was the idea and the intent. It was just a matter of delivering the building and then connecting the solar portion of it, where we saw a little bit of a gap. So this isn't new. This isn't something we're adding on. This is something that has always been part of the proposal. Yeah. Correct. Anita, any questions or comments?
My only comment would be to say thank you also, to echo the thanks to Matt for all of his work and your team. And I think it's fabulous and good for Norfolk and good for the planet. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments? I am seeing none. So in that case, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Yes, I would just ask for the board's permission to authorize the town administrator to sign the letter of intent.
I will move to approve the agreement and to authorize the town administrator to sign on behalf of the town.
Thank you, sir. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a second. Any further discussion?
It's a great plan.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Does your dog approve?
He's on the fence about it, to be honest with you.
I thought he'd be excited about the poll.
Well, he wants to check that out. He was more interested in the poll hearing. He wanted to.
Then being on the roof is kind of out of his reach.
Yeah, if you have any fire hydrant hearings, he'll definitely want to be part of that as well.
That's funny.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item this evening is to discuss and vote to approve the Select Board FY24 meeting schedule. Justin, go right ahead.
So as we transition to fiscal year '24, it has sort of been the board's practice to establish a schedule for fiscal year '24. At the previous meeting, the board had initially proposed July 11th and August 15th as proposed dates for the summer. Obviously, you can discuss that now. And typically, it's been the first and third Tuesday of each month that the board has met. Obviously, the board can do whatever works for them. I would highlight one other thing, though. The first Tuesday of September is September 5th, and that's the day after Labor Day. I don't know if that affects anything for you all, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
Oh, I'm retired.
I feel like we're going to have these little realizations for a good couple of months now,
I was
right?
like, no way we can meet on that day. There's no way. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Okay, so let's start with the summer. Is everybody good with July 11th and August 15th?
Yes, those are fine.
I had a problem with one of those 2 dates now. I'm trying to remember which it was. Isn't that terrible?
I think you mentioned July 11th, Jim.
Was it July 11th? Yeah. If that is the date, I will make it work, but I will be away that week, but I can come back.
Well, no need to do that
no,
if we don't
yeah.
have to.
The 18th?
That would be the planning board's night, if I'm not mistaken, or are they the first?
They did switch for the board to July 18th, I believe.
Or they were Zoom only.
No, they switched to July 18th.
Rich
'Cause
is on-
they-
Rich is on here.
Oh, Rich is here.
There we go. Perfect. Rich, can you?
Rich.
11th. Keep it on the 11th. That's fine. I'll make it work.
I'm sure we can.
No,
find
they
a day.
switched to remote because you were going to meet on July 11th, which is a regular
Oh,
meeting.
remote?
which-
They,
Yeah.
So July 18th is open.
Okay. That would be
Yeah.
better for me if it's agreeable.
Works for me?
Works for me.
Beautiful.
And August 15th is fine.
Very good. All right, so we have our summer set. Now, let's talk about September. I think I would be okay the day after Labor Day. The kids start school on the 29th anyway of August, so it's not like we have an extended vacation.
And I'm retired. Almost.
So do we want to keep it on the day after Labor Day, or do we prefer to try to push it? Because I think if we do push it, we're going to start running into that same problem with the planning board again, right? On the 12th?
It's fine with me. Just works for me. How about you folks? Because that is a vacation days, or, I mean, would it work for you guys?
That works.
We'll be here.
Okay.
All right, so we'll leave it at
So
the
just go
5th of
first and
September,
third?
and then we'll get back on our normal first and third schedule from there?
Yep.
Cool.
Sounds good.
And we don't need to vote on that, do we?
You don't need to vote on it. I think it's just formalizing for the town, just to know that we're generally meeting on those dates. We've been flexible and so forth, so there's nothing to vote on particularly.
Gotcha. So we won't. Our next item tonight is to review the Open Space and Recreation Plan update. Justin, who do we have with us tonight?
We have our Recreation Director, Ann Proto, and our Conservation Agent, Caitlin Nover. They're going to give the update on the Open Space and Recreation Plan update.
Hello, welcome.
Good evening. Thanks very much for having us. So as you all know, at the town meeting, this came up, and the good news is that it did pass, but there were some questions about the Open Space and Recreation Plan and in relation to the master plan. So we have changed up a few of our slides based on some feedback that we got, just so we could review what the master plan is versus what the Open Space and Recreation Plan is. So as many of you are well aware, the municipal master plan is all-encompassing. Its goal is to provide a basis to make long-term decisions and physical decisions about the town, where it's going in the future. But it includes, along with open space and recreation, which is a part of it, economic development, transportation, housing. It talks about everything. The open space and recreation plan is a subset, however, of the master plan, but it goes into much greater detail, and it focuses on natural resources. And it focuses on everything from aquifers to recreational land to endangered species. It is far more detailed. So, and that's what we wanted to clarify, because makes sense. There's a lot of questions, and names are very familiar, very close to each other. So the open space and recreation plan it inventories the existing natural resources, both private and public, which is an important part to acknowledge that it's not just town-owned land that it's addressing. Although it also does inventory the town-owned land as well. It inventories this Chapter 61, agricultural, recreational, and forestry, right? It inventories all of that, and it inventories it, but then it also evaluates it, and it documents what's important, and therefore we can move forward and set priorities.
So I just wanted to talk about some advantages of an open space and rec plan update in 2023. Since the last plan update in 2017, the plan itself has changed, as well as a lot of the benefits that come out of the plan. Some of them, public involvement is a big part of the plan. And since 2017, there are a lot more user-friendly options as far as the surveys, which can be done online. There's hybrid and remote options for public meetings. So that's very important, that it's easier for the public to be a part of the plan update. Additionally, GIS mapping has come a long way. Aerial figures the potential to have drone imaging for the different parcels that we have. Currently, a lot of our open space parcels aren't mapped, and the boundaries aren't really known by a lot of residents. I get questions about that by a lot of residents, like where exactly access is, what exactly is public land and what is private. And another advantage would be a more comprehensive approach to inclusiveness of our open space lands, which would include ADA compliance, climate resiliency, and invasive species management are also topics that weren't included in depth in the last plan update. And another major point is that the Conservation Commission is going to establish a permanent open space subcommittee to ensure follow through of the action items that come out of the update. They'll serve as record keeping for how well we are at keeping up with those action items, and they'll also serve as a point of contact for residents, other boards in town, and also private organizations, potential developers in town, and the like.
So some of the specific recreation goals are geared around the acquisition of the additional 43 acres at Pond Street. Not exclusively, but certainly that's a big part. That land is a little bit tricky, so we're not just looking at Pond Street and what we can do with that. We're looking at all of the land together, including Freeman Kennedy. We actually have more field space at Freeman Kennedy, considerably more field space than we do at Pond Street. Layouts not at both locations could be improved, significantly improved, specifically to address access for all and inclusiveness. We are Freeman Kennedy was built over probably the past 70 or 80 years, so it's was not a plan, it was just adding on. And even though Pond Street is considered by many to be new, it's actually about 25 years old, before the very first ADA compliance requirements, let alone the second, and really, it's really not even about the ADA compliance, it's about being inclusive and making sure it works for everyone. And so that needs to be addressed. We do have some significant issues at Pond Street, especially with the back soccer field. Everyone's nodding their head if anyone's walked down that hill, especially if they're bringing grandparents with them. So what we would specifically like to do, and we've actually already had, the Rec Commission has already had meetings on it, is to start talking about a comprehensive athletic field layout and that best serves the residents. Like, it's hard to split up sports in different areas. If you have a parent with 4 children, being in 2 different locations at the same time is a little tricky. So we need to address all of that, and if there's and we want to do the analysis and have the data to make sure that we are doing what we know to be correct and not just what we think to be correct. We also want to make sure we address the field conditions, and a lot of that is to reduce our costs, to make sure that the fields are in good condition so we can, and how to maintain them the best that we possibly can. That also includes soil testing. We need to do playground conditions. We want to evaluate capacity and growth for not just athletic fields, but for playgrounds and for other services that we may be offering. Again, inclusiveness and safety are a high priority, and we want to be able to, and there are a lot of projects out there, so we want to be able to prioritize and have input from the community to prioritize. And then we want to, there are a lot of new opportunities, especially with the land at Pond Street. A lot of times people just think of athletic fields, but we want to learn about what type of fishing access is there. Are there opportunities for, boat launches? What would we gain if we had lit fields? Mixed use trails, and when I say mixed use, bicycles, or at Pond Street especially, although we're gaining 43 acres, 20 of it is wet. So but you can still build trails and have boardwalks, and there's a beautiful viewing area. Caitlin and I have been out, and we've looked at those opportunities. And over the years, matter of fact, I think, Jim, you were on the commission when people came to us and talked to us about astronomical viewing, and it's a request that we've gotten repeatedly over the years. So we want to look at other opportunities, not just opportunities that involve a soccer ball or a round ball of different kinds. And then we've also, a lot of people ask about a splash pad, so we want to get input across everything. And these are just some of the ideas. It's really about getting the community input.
So this next slide just shows an example of why it's so important to, have a detailed inventory of our open space lands, town-owned lands, and also evaluations of those properties to provide future opportunities. This is something that I came across when I first started last April, and I definitely, would classify this as a missed opportunity. If you look at the figure on the left, this was in 2020. The parcels highlighted in red were town-owned. The one highlighted in pink was in the process of being taken through tax title. And during the 2021 auction for lots in town, 2 of the parcels were actually sold. And If you look at the figure on the right, they're the parcels that have the blue lock on them. If there, potentially if there had been a detailed evaluation of this area, those parcels would have been held onto, and the town would have had a contiguous, 3-acre block along the Charles. And with that, there could have been a boat launch with parking, and not to say that that's not still possible, but especially, with the floodplain issues in riverfront area, the more land that you have, the more opportunity you have to really have a well thought out, planned boat launch, canoe launch, with parking and all that goes with that.
So we sold those for tax title?
They were sold at auction.
For tax title. The fact that they were delinquent in taxes, the town took over the property and sold it in auction.
Correct.
And they sold for?
I think the, one sold for 10,000, and then the other, I think it was 10 to 20,000.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
And one of them potentially might be developable, the acre lot. So 20,000 for a buildable acre lot is not.
On the Charles.
On the river.
Yeah, on the river. So I just wanted to show an example of why it's so important to
That's a
do
great
these
example.
plans.
So we just put down some, before we talked about the grant opportunities, so the key opportunities are really community involvement and input, having an accurate and detailed inventories of our natural resources, having a plan that addresses both safety and inclusiveness, and having established priorities, and having a committee with oversight to make sure we stay on track. We all get busy, we still need that plan, and we need someone, we need a group spearheading it. The last thing I'd like to talk about are the opportunities that may be there for grants. If a community has a current open space and recreation plan, there are grants available, and so this is a benefit. However, I think both of us feel very strongly that it's not the only reason that an open space and recreation plan should be done. Right now, because we'll be developing Pond Street in the future, and we all know that there are some tax burdens coming to Norfolk, we need to look at the different ways to get things done. And we are very fortunate that we will be eligible, doesn't mean we'll get it, but we will be eligible for the Mass Trails Grant and the Park Grant Program. And if you look at the Park Grant Program, it's, it says, larger towns, 35,000. But if you read a little bit further on, if you have parking for over 100, you're still eligible for the $500,000. Eligible Mass Trails Grant is a $500,000 cap. So these are large grants. Doesn't mean we would, obviously doesn't mean we'll get them at all, but it does, but it's still, there's a lot of money there. And even though in the last segment of 7 years, we didn't apply for any grants, both City Mills and Lynn Farm were acquired through these grants. So there is a wonderful opportunity. And because of the topography of Pond Street and the makeup of Pond Street, there's some great opportunities to be able to incorporate that and apply for the grants.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. I had a couple of questions, but I'll defer to my fellow members first. Jim, any questions?
No, just a comment. Cindy, you're still on, right? There?
I am.
One of the things that I know has been talked about many times, and I think even, I think my wife even mentioned that you folks had talked about it. We have a lot of open space that people don't know a thing about in town. There are a lot of areas that people don't know exist, some beautiful spots, some wonderful walking trails. They don't know they're there. And I know we've talked about it many times, about creating a town brochure or some type of public information to give people so that they're aware of these. Is that on anybody's list?
It is. That will be definitely part of the open space
Okay.
recreation plan.
There's some great spots.
There are some great spots.
And I believe that conservation, Caitlin, or somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, has put a bunch of GIS maps on their website.
We did add some additional mapping onto the conservation page that we had available.
More needs to be done.
But more needs to be done. There are a lot of, and those were like related to Lynn Farm.
Right.
And I think what you're probably referring to are the smaller parcels that probably many people don't know exist. There are a lot of, Bristol Pond, but there are also a lot of, a third of an acre lots with access to the Charles that, they're overgrown. If you drove by them, I've driven by them, and it just looks like it's someone's yard, but really it's, public access to the river, to fish, or.
I mean, everyone thinks it's a playground, and that's it, and it's not. There's about 16 acres of beautiful conservation land, a gorgeous walking paths through there. People just don't know they're there.
So yeah, the plan will have an inventory of these, of all of the open space parcels. Are there trails there? What type of amenities are there? And there'll be, some type of GIS figure map to go along with it, so that people are, they know where these areas are, what they include, and we'll hopefully be able to get out there. So
I think at Gumps, I think there was some issues with the vernal pool and things, so that some of the trails weren't developed as they were originally planned.
That is wonderful information for people that seek it out. I'm looking for something, hoping we become something that's proactive, that tells people it's there. And those that want to look for it will find it.
Right.
I'm hoping we can get to the vast majority of people that aren't looking for it, but would like to know it's there.
That's a great point.
And
I think, the CPC would certainly entertain a proposal to develop something, either paper / GIS online mapping system. We had it, quite a number of years ago, and we tabled it because we didn't think we were ready, and GIS was kind of new at the time. But I think CPC would certainly entertain a proposal to provide that type of benefit to the town.
Thank you, Cindy. Super.
I was going to piggyback on what Jim said. If it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, like if you're looking for an outside picnic place, these are outside picnic places in town. If you want to do a 45-minute walk with a stroller, like these are the places you could take a stroller, right? And if you want something more strenuous, these are some things that, so people can kind of pick it, match their needs and their interests to what they are. I was curious if you said that the, as your bullet point, you said it would be a definitive plan with established priorities. And I'm wondering if the organization doing the work is giving you the data and then you would use the data to create those priorities, or would they be generating the priorities for you?
I would presume that they would have suggested, after they've compiled all of the data, they would have suggested action items, but a lot of those will come from public opinion through the surveys, because though it's really about what the current residents, where they want to see the town go.
And cost will also come into it. That will play a part. We'll get estimates about how much things cost to do. So we know if we're going to proceed with something, what kind of funding we need to have to do that.
So for the copious people out there listening to this fascinating meeting, I hope that you understand that your opinion really matters, and we need you to fill out the survey so we know what you want to be in Norfolk. So please, I know everybody is so busy, but it's so important to take the time to do that so that this town can meet your needs. So thank you so much for the work. That's all I have.
Thank you. So just a couple of...
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a somewhat related question before you move on?
Depends how somewhat related it is, but go right ahead.
Okay. The somewhat related question is, Caitlin mentioned that the Conservation Commission is going to establish an open space committee.
Yes.
Correct? And I was just wondering how that information will get out as far as looking for volunteers.
So that's actually going to be on the July agenda for the Conservation Commission, where the mission statement and, precise details of exactly how many members would be on the subcommittee, all of that will be on the July 12th meeting. And that would, I presume, be advertised on the town website like other boards, although I have been looking into other ways to get the message out there. There's always Facebook. There are other websites for volunteers, for people looking to volunteer. So.
For this program as well, so Recreation also has a separate Facebook page. We have a fair amount of followers, I think about 2,500 at this point, and we have Instagram, and we also have a database. So we'll all team up together and try to come up with a long list of how to get the word out there.
Thank you.
Cindy, did you have another means of communication that you were thinking of?
No, that was my simple question, and thank you for letting me ask it.
Very welcome, thank you.
I think we might also ask the PR people to help us.
That's why we have them.
Yep.
So the couple of points that I had first and foremost, there are a few things that bring my wife and I more excitement than seeing that our kids all have games in the same area. So I completely agree with that sentiment. That was very well said. Another point I wanted to make was, as part of the master plan process, we've had a couple of community meetings already. We've had one-on-one interactions with people around the town. Recreation has been a big topic. A lot of people have been talking about their vision for Norfolk, including recreation initiatives. So I think that having something like this going on in parallel is going to be a big piece of being able to accommodate and meet the needs of what people are expecting as part of this whole thing. Pickleball courts.
Yes.
Always pickleball courts.
Pickleball is so big.
You've brought up a great subject. So going back 10 years, Scott Dittrich was the first to come to me for a pickleball court, and he was not very happy.
The old playground.
Not very happy with me when I said we don't have a place to have it. Finding land for pickleball courts is not easy, and actually this is one of those things that'll make finding land or knowing where we can put things or use things or not use things, rather than I have walked a lot of land in this town looking for a place for pickleball courts. And as a matter of fact, I will say this, at the last Recreation Commission, there will be a plaque noting that Scott was the first to ask.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Go right ahead.
A lot of recreation spots now have utilized their tennis courts. And you're doing it multi-purpose. And they've designated certain times, certain parts of the day, because you can line both at the same time.
Yep.
And it's commonly done. I believe it is Medway's High School that has done this. And they're very well done, and they function very well for both needs, and it's just a matter of identifying the appropriate times that each of them will be used for what purpose. We could do that.
Well, we actually have looked at that initially, and I will tell you this. Our tennis courts are literally falling apart, and no one wants to line them. They are cracked. They've been fixed several times. Recreation over the last, they started cracking within a year and a half of them being installed because they were not installed correctly. We've put in over $50,000. No, Recreation alone, no tax money. Recreation has put in over $50,000 to just keep them playable. They are literally peeling. So we have looked at using a sport court system, which is advanced. So we've been looking at that. We've been looking at changing over the skate park area, but we would have to be adding 9 feet to that. We're looking at the area between the transfer station and the senior center as a possible plan. That is $1.5 million plan. So we are looking at many things, but unfortunately, our courts are hardly playable.
But maybe it's a foolish question, but I assume at some point, you're just not going to let them continue to deteriorate and so on. They're going to need a full overhaul at some point in time.
Absolutely, and to pulverize and to redo them, it's about $400,000.
That's cheaper than $1.5 million.
Well, however, there's still only two tennis courts. And we are thinking about where we're going to be with Pond Street, and we would like to see, the courts themselves are not in an ideal location, as Kevin's not.
They're right in the middle.
They're right in the middle, and you have to say, well, you can walk through the court to get to the back soccer field, or kind of scooch by the side, or cut down here. They're not in a great place, so we don't want to spend $500,000.
Yeah, I understand.
To say in 5 years, oh geez, I wish they weren't there. That where they are would be an ideal location for a one-story building with a very deep basement to have access to the back of the whole property. Just as one possible thought.
Just an option.
So we are
I'm
looking.
with Kevin. I love pickleball. So
Yes, me too. So we are looking.
Very nice. Caitlin, in part of one of the slides, you had mentioned that for the open space assessments, there was a climate resiliency aspect to that. And trust me, I don't want to start throwing more plans out there to anybody at this point. I think we've hit our capacity on plans for one period. But we've been hearing a lot about climate action plans for communities and ways that you could be able to plan for the future and how you're going to remain ahead of the curve in terms of sustainability. How much would that lead into something like that kind of initiative? Do you have experience with that in other communities or anything of that nature?
So I believe it would, the hazard mitigation plan is going to be finalized pretty soon. And the open space plan will kind of piggyback off that. In town, for example, flooding is a big issue. And so the plan would identify areas that, in the future might flood actually, the Army Corps flood storage area in town was the first flood storage area that Army Corps ever put together in the country, I believe. Not saying that that's something that will come out of this, but things like that, identifying parcels that we want to keep just natural, not have any trails. To serve as flood management or our important wildlife parcels for habitat or for
Wildlife
corridors. Thank you. So things like that.
Perfect. Thank you. I believe that's everything that I had. Justin, Kate, anything else from you? Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you so much, Caitlin. We really do appreciate you coming in and outlining this in a time where people are kind of getting their plans crossed left and right. So it was good to be able to segment what the two efforts look like.
I'm glad I was misinformed.
Thank you.
You do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your questions, because those are questions that come up from a lot of people. So it's great to be able to answer them.
And not to make it all like the firing range questions thing, and I have to say I got a lot of great feedback on the fireworks display after Community Day. So thank you to everybody who had a part in helping put that on for the community.
Yes, I think a lot of people were involved, and I have to say it's very fun to be able to put on those types of events.
And nothing burned down. Well done. Well done.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Just as we transition to the next agenda item, I would just like to mention the hazard mitigation plan, which was at our last select board meeting. It's open for public comment now as well.
Thank you.
Great call out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, our next item tonight is a Safe Coalition update from CEO and co-founder Jen Levine. Jen, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you again. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. It's always nice to come back, year after year and just provide some insight and have you ask some questions. What we've really recognized working in all of the communities in this area, southern Norfolk County, is that the speed at which substance use and mental health, both with adolescents and with adults, is changing is way more than anything we had ever planned for. And so that's why I do think that coming every single year and giving you feedback as to what we're seeing at SAFE from a community perspective, but also a Norfolk perspective, I think is really important. So kind of the first things that I want to share with you, last time that I came here, I spoke about domestic violence and how domestic violence had been something that we were seeing many of the Norfolk residents that we work with struggling with. And out of those comments that we heard working with Norfolk residents, we were able to create a program for victims or survivors of domestic violence with a licensed clinician and a survivor. And so it's a co-facilitated program. It's a completely free program. We had it in person for 12 weeks, and now we have it online every week. And it's a grant-funded program. And it's amazing because now we are able to actually meet the needs of citizens who at this time last year we did not have access and real local support for. So that's really exciting. When I was preparing for this over the past week or so, I really wanted to kind of look at the folks that we worked with in Norfolk and where were the top areas that we were seeing the highest needs in relation to SAFE. So I just kind of want to go through this. So every Thursday at the SAFE Coalition office in Norfolk, we run a peer-to-peer program, and that peer-to-peer program is open to students 14 to 18, and it's for students who are newly sober, supporting students who are not. We have one of our staff facilitating the program, but it's really for students to learn from each other. How do you be a social, thriving teen while not using substances? And that is, from a teen perspective, the most sought after program. We have the most Norfolk teens attend that program on Thursday afternoons than we do in any other town. Secondarily, to follow that up, we have a really wonderful partnership with King Philip Middle School and King Philip High School. Speaking about King Philip Middle most specifically because that's in Norfolk, we have an internal referral program for students. In lieu of a 10-day suspension for substances, students are given the opportunity to come to the SAFE Coalition for a 3-day social emotional wellness program. Once the student completes those 3 days, they're able to return to school on their 4th day and the suspension is absolved from their record. This allows students to enter any high school they need to with a different record than they may have had. It also doesn't place a child in a penalized program, but it really allows them to understand not that substances are horrible and that they shouldn't do them because they're illegal, but why do you feel like you're using the substances? And what other resources can we connect you and your family to so that this is not the trajectory you continue to go on? The next most important program that we see Norfolk residents utilize is our diaper bank. We provide diapers on a weekly basis to Norfolk residents. I think I mentioned this last year. During COVID, we did not have a diaper bank, and we started working with families who were out of a job or had changed their employment hours, and yet the cost of diapers was increasing, and that's not something that state or federal benefits cover. And so we have an incredible amount of folks at a church in Norfolk actually specifically always donating diapers to us, but I am not kidding you. Every week we are delivering diapers to residents of Norfolk. We have partnered with the Norfolk Police twice a year to do a prescription disposal day, and that has been really interesting. So we really partner with the Norfolk Police in a few different ways. Our most public out in the community space is this prescription disposal. We love prescription disposal, and we love doing it with the Norfolk Police because it gives folks in the community an opportunity to meet us, the SAFE Coalition, under not a crisis situation, and also meet Norfolk Police in not a crisis situation. And so it is not uncommon for us to have staff at the police station with Norfolk PD talking with folks as they come just to learn a little bit more about themselves, because oftentimes when we meet somebody, it's not uncommon for us to hear from them a week or two or a month later saying, hey, I met you at disposal day. I just had a couple questions. I'm going through this, or my loved one is going through this. The next piece I think is really important is family recovery. So over the last few years, we've been really dedicated to the idea that it's not ever one individual person who's struggling, that if one person is struggling, they're part of a family system. And how do we support the family to understand how to love their loved one, maybe at a distance or through their own challenges. And so we have moved to our Franklin location, and we have a family recovery center. And that family recovery center has a significant amount of Norfolk residents, and what we do there very often is Narcan training. So 2 weeks ago, we were certified through the state as part of the bulk purchase order program for Narcan, where all of our Narcan is 100% subsidized. So prior to this, we were paying $95 a box, which held 2 doses of Narcan. And so we would just really be asking folks for donations just to purchase Narcan. Now that we're part of this bulk order program, we can get the Narcan for free, we can give it out for free, and all that money that we were using can now go to something else, which is amazing. We're definitely seeing, from a substance use perspective, kind of changing lenses a little bit, we're still seeing a significant amount of opioids, and we're seeing a massive amount of THC and nicotine vaping. Before I get into the opioid piece, I just want to share a few statistics. So just under half of the teens that we worked with through our substance use diversion program this year were residents of Norfolk. And a little bit about that program. 78% of teens that we work with said that they want more substance use education, which has been taken out of the DESE-funded health curriculum. 89.8% of the students we work with actively use cannabis, and 52.5% use multiple times daily. 93.8% know substances are harmful, and 69.5% have a co-occurring mental health diagnosis. The last statistic is the most crucial from our perspective. 91% of the teens that we worked with this year highlighted that they have tried to decrease their substance use on their own. So when we work with schools, and we work with police, and we work with fire, and we work with families, we highlight that maybe the bad kids or the kids who are struggling the most aren't struggling because they want a really challenging life. Most times they have really tried to work on this on their own, and they have not been successful. So a huge part of what we're trying to do in working with our teens and working with our families is, one, to educate families on how to work with their teen, how to communicate effectively with their teen, how to come alongside their teen. But then with the teens, how do we help you understand how your thoughts and feelings are really impacting your substance use? This is really important data, and then the 89.8% of cannabis use is really important. And I want to pause here for a second. The majority of kids that we work with, again, are between 14 and 18. The majority of those kids cannot drive on their own. So all the kids that are using cannabis that we work with, all are buying from dealers, and those dealers are coming to their homes. When Massachusetts, this is something that has come up over the last year. When Massachusetts legalized cannabis, one of the unintended outcomes is that anyone who was typically dealing cannabis now had to only deal to people who were under 21 and had to increase their style of substances so they could keep up a revenue stream. And that is really what we talk to the kids about. When we talk to parents say, I'm way more worried about them drinking and driving. I'm way more worried about them doing harder party drugs. And we say, the marijuana that you used when you were in high school and you were in college is not what the kids are using. The style and the way that you accessed your cannabis when you were younger is not the style that these kids are. And so educating parents and educating kids on environmental factors, on how kind of the game has changed, has been so dramatically different than the last time I was sitting here in this room. And I really wanted to pause on that, because that is something that we've had to sit with, talk with kids and families about, and we've had a lot of Norfolk residents. I think it's amazing that King Philip Middle here in Norfolk has encouraged families and kids to come to us and work with us on their nights and their weekends, and has given students the opportunity to learn about why they're using instead of punishment and go home and deal with it at home with the doors closed. Because even if that child is still struggling with substance use, they know forever that there is another organization and a group of people and a school system that believes that they can be in recovery. And that is incredible. The other piece is this opioid piece. So in Norfolk County, over the last month, we've seen a huge increase in opioids, and in those opioids, we've seen a 25% increase in xylazine. Xylazine is a veterinarian drug that is used as it's a long-lasting sedative. What's happening and what we're seeing in Massachusetts, and specifically in Norfolk County right now, is when xylazine is added to an opioid, it gives you that 1980s long-lasting heroin euphoric feeling that most folks who are struggling with addiction right now have never known, because fentanyl has been so potent over the last 8 years. And what's challenging here is that with the mixture of opioids and xylazine and another substance, your risk for overdose just increases. You will need more Narcan than you planned on. So working with folks in Norfolk and all of our other communities who are actively using substances, who are buying from dealers, who are getting gifts from dealers, this is kind of what we're telling them. We really are encouraging you to have Narcan. Here are the reasons and risks. Here's what we're seeing from the drug lab in Norfolk County, and in Norfolk and Rentham and Plainville. The response time and cell service are a lot different than when you're in Quincy or Braintree, even Cohasset. And so when we work with our teens and even some of our families, our parents who are struggling with substance use, we really have to have this well-rounded conversation of how do you socialize? Do you socialize out in a field after a football game? Do you socialize in the basement of someone's house that doesn't have service? Are you with another group of parents and you leave your cell phones in the house? All of these things are going to delay a response time if someone experiences an overdose. And that is what we're seeing right now. So I am not kidding you, we got our purchase order last week and we've gone through 100 doses of Narcan so far. So we got 100 doses, and 100 doses are already back out into the community over the last 7 days. So I don't want to be super grim here. There's a lot of great work that's going on. It's just that, now the more you know, the more you do and you're responsible for. And so a huge portion of the work that we are doing at SAFE is to really listen to the needs of the community, talk with our state legislators, really understand information that's coming out from the DA's office, from the Department of Public Health, through the state police, and really talking with teens and with families about environmental safety and concerns, how your mental health can impact your substance use, and also what is your life trajectory and how can we really help you get there. We are really excited because the King Philip School District and King Philip Middle School are allowing us to run a summer school program. So for the last 3 years, SAFE has been part of the King Philip High School Middle School Summer School. This year, academically, that is not happening. We said to the school district, that's a massive concern to us because all these beautiful kiddos that we see during the summer, we now don't have access to. And so the King Philip School System said, absolutely, no problem, let's figure this out. And so now at the King Philip Middle School in Norfolk, every Tuesday from, I think it's 9:15 to 1:15, we are running a social emotional summer school, and it's booked. The middle school and high school both are booked. And we really did not know if that was all going to happen, but we start reaching out to these sweet little kids that we've been seeing for years. Some were in middle school, now they're transitioning to high school. Some we knew their high school siblings, and now they're in middle school. But we really wanted to make sure that we had access to these kids who may not have another safe environment to go to or spend time to during the day if mom and dad are working, which is really exciting. So that will be launching the week after the 4th of July at King Philip Middle. We also, in working with the teens this year, recognize the need for mentorship. 3 big themes of working with the kids is substance use, mental health, and healthy relationships. Huge amount of bullying, huge amount of just relationship red flags and green flags. Who's a good person to trust, who's not a good person to trust. So this summer, on Mondays, we will have a group for those who identify as male, a mentorship program with free food and free transportation. On Tuesdays, we'll be here in Norfolk hosting the Social Emotional Summer School, and then in the afternoon, we'll have those who identify as female, a mentorship program. On Wednesdays, I think it's a free day, and then Thursdays, we have another version of the summer school. So if kids here in Norfolk feel like they need additional support, we also have an overflow program on Thursdays from 9 to 12:15, where kids can come and do another extension of that social emotional learning. And then Thursday afternoon, we're running a summer peer-to-peer program. So again, listening to the needs of the community, developing those needs around the kids, and then our Family Recovery Center also has wraparound programming. So Monday nights we have a adult siblings support program. Tuesday nights we have a 12-step program for families who are struggling with their loved ones' addiction. We also, at that same time, have the domestic violence program running. Wednesdays, we have grandparents raising grandchildren, and Thursdays, we partner with Wayside Youth and Family Services for another teen evening program. So, it's been a busy year for sure. And, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, because the amazing thing is that the more that we're out there sharing the opportunities and listening to the needs of the community is responding. And to be able to have summer school here in Norfolk is awesome. So we have our substance use diversion suspension alternative program. We have that grant for 2 years. So we will be ending the first year in December, and that new grant cycle will begin again in December, which is exciting, and it just really helps us tell the story about what we're seeing in all of the communities, and then, really creating this community specific. So happy to answer any questions you may have. Sorry to be all doom and gloom, but we want to know what we got. We want to know what the community is needing so that we can provide accurate resources.
No, I mean, Jen, everything that you just outlined, I think, is something that the community needs to know about and be informed about. So often we hear about stats at the state level or even the county level, and we think, oh, yeah, well, that's probably happening in the town over there, the town over there. To hear that stuff specifically centered around things that are happening, that you're hearing about, you're addressing here in Norfolk, is powerful. I mean, I think that's something that brings it to the forefront and brings it to the top of mind. So thank you so much for outlining that for everybody. And thank you so much to you and Jim and everybody at Safe Coalition for everything that you do and the services you provide to the community, because they're invaluable. And there's never been a more important time that we need them. So thank you.
Happy to do it. Thank you so much.
Jim, did you have any?
I was going to bring up the summer school. I'm on the school committee at King Philip, and while you're doom and gloom, I want to tell you that we've seen a lot of data, and it's alarming what we see. But we have also seen improvement. We've seen changes, and we've done some major rethinking on how we're dealing with these issues. You mentioned several of them. Kicking kids out of school and sending them home, that is not the answer. Mm-hmm. That is not the right answer, and we've made some significant policy changes on that over the last year and a half. More to come. And I know the work that you've done, because you're part of what we do up at the same school, and I know you coordinate it, and I cannot compliment you enough, but I can tell you you are making a difference with those kids.
Thank you. We love them so much.
The data we're seeing, I mean, 4 years ago, it was frightening. It was frightening, the data we were getting. Now it's still frightening, because every child should be safe and comfortable in that school, and that's not the case yet, but we're going to work hard to get there. And the work you're doing is critical. But I can tell you, absolutely tell you, you have made a difference in those schools.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, the staff at SAFE are exceptional, and
You will see, and you will continue to see changes. I'm sure you've noticed it in the last couple of years.
We have. I mean, I think it's pretty powerful that we have so many King Philip students running and facilitating the peer-to-peer program, because they are sober. That is, I could cry. Like, it is so amazing.
On this too, because one of the major changes we've made, and I know you know this, is that the kids are facilitating these meetings, and they're the ones talking about it, and they're the ones that are talking to their peers. It's making a huge difference, and the kids that are doing it are just incredible, and we're getting there. A lot more to do, but it's not all doom and gloom. You have made a difference, and we're continuing to try and make a difference. We want every kid safe in those schools.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do.
You're doing the hard work.
We're all in it together. I mean, really, really. Thank you.
Just to piggyback first on what Jim was saying, I always used to say that we could teach them all we want in the schools, but boy, they learn a word on the bus from their friends. They know it forever, right? So learning from their peers is really powerful. We know that learning is social. I had the same feeling when you came to us last year, how grateful I am that your program is in our community, and just that sense of gratitude is overwhelming, because the need is significant and the need is dire. I love the role that you've played in the shift from punitive practices to restorative practices, and I made a connection as you were talking. I've just started reading this book called Atomic Habits, and it's talking about, like, you can have all the goals as you want, like I'm going to stop drinking or I'm going to stop using, but the goals don't really solve the problem. It's the systems that get you to your goals. And so if you're not reaching your goals, it's not because you're a bad kid or you have a problem. It's because your systems aren't effective, and it feels like, or listening to you sounds like you're helping them grow healthier systems so that they're able to reach those goals with a sound footing underneath them. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing, and very, very grateful to have you in our community.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here. So thank you so much.
Jen, you have an open door at KP.
Thank you. Listen, we're busting through that door and we're never leaving. So
Hold me to it.
okay, done and done.
Jen, there was a couple of things I just wanted to clarify. The first was, obviously you're in this beautiful new facility in Franklin now that's going to offer you so much more opportunity to be able to host larger groups and have more group discussions and whatnot. But I did want to clarify, you are keeping the Norfolk office, correct?
No.
Okay, so
No.
the Norfolk office is closing.
Yeah, so the Norfolk office is closed.
Okay.
And that is why we provide 100% free transportation to all of the kids or the families if they need it.
Perfect.
And that was really important to us. So we received a grant to open up a family recovery center, and we just couldn't find the space in Norfolk to do both, to have the safe offices and the family recovery center. So then we actually were going to split into two. And then it's like, we just weren't, this was like 2.5 years ago, we were not established enough yet to run two different businesses in two different locations and have two sets of bills and all of that yet. And so when the opportunity came to Franklin, it was like, well, what about all these kids who literally ride their bikes to the safe office here? It's like, if we can provide them free transportation, no matter what, free food, no matter what, then at least that will help. And that it has definitely helped. So, and you know, that actually our relationship with King Philip, it was like, well, we could offer this Thursday program and have it at Safe, but what about all the kids who wouldn't get into an Uber or wouldn't get into a bus if we got one? So we asked KP Middle if we could utilize the building, and they said yes. So, I mean, this is this partnership where if we really want to meet the needs of the community, the only option is to work together. So, yeah, so we're making it work one way or another. Yes.
Awesome. The other question was, you highlighted these incredible ways that you're being able to accommodate for the needs of the community as they come up. We all know that you've been an absolute magician when it comes to creative ways to be able to make ends meet, to be able to provide those services. But could you talk a little bit about the difficulties that you're running into and some of the roadblocks that you're seeing in terms of being able to bridge that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. So, Safe is and always has been and hopefully will continue to be a completely free organization, meaning we do not take insurance and we do not take private pay. We really wanted to take away the barriers to access for everyone in our community and really level the playing field for who was able to walk in the door. And a part of my role over the last few years has really been in philanthropic giving. And how do I write grants? How do we go after private donors? How do I even craft a message to do that? And I'm doing it, but it's still really challenging, and the needs are so great. So an example of this is we got a very teeny tiny small grant for our licensed clinician. Now, she is an LICSW, which is the highest licensure that Massachusetts has for a clinician. She is excellent. So we took this little tiny mini grant, and we are paying her to be a gap clinician. So if a teen or a family walks through our door and they want therapy, and we can refer them to any one of the clinicians that we work with closely, but let's say there's a 6-week waiting list, our clinician will provide that intermedium clinical support and then do a warm handoff to a long-term clinician, which has been outstanding because the kids get access to a real clinician. Our clinician, if needed, can diagnose if the person needs to be hospitalized or go to a higher level of care. They don't have to go to the ER. They don't need to get the police involved. We can do that internally. But again, that grant will run out. And I mean, I think what we have seen working with folks who are in recovery from more significant substances is no one started with opioids or cocaine or any of the other party-style drugs. They all started with marijuana. So if we are working with kids who are actively using marijuana and who are dabbling in other substances and have a family history of substance use, it is likely that they are going to continue down that trajectory if we don't provide real significant opportunities. And so I think for us to keep a real team of clinicians has been a challenge because we want to pay people well. I think for us to train our staff really well as things are shifting and changing has been a challenge. I'll give you 2 quick examples. We believe that restorative justice is really important, and we got a teeny tiny grant to send one of our staff to a restorative justice program, and now she's doing restorative justice with police departments. So if the police go on a call with an individual that we work with, we are able to do a restorative justice model to figure out how can that person best be served without re-traumatizing them. And it has been outstanding. We also just certified someone as a mediator. So as we have families come in who are really struggling, we have now a staff who's a mediator. These are things that we never thought of 4 years ago, but now we know that we need. And so they're just really hard to find grants for, and the need is there. And so having additional funding to work with teens who are struggling early on before they get to a crisis point, work with families early on before they get to a crisis point, help with transportation will just be huge. And so, it's never easy to find grants, and it's getting more challenging because everyone is going after the same things because adolescent mental health and substance use is skyrocketing everywhere. If that answers a little bit.
No, it definitely does. I can only begin to imagine how much that is a shoulder as you go through these things and having to hear the stories about the needs of people and not necessarily being able to directly provide them, and then having to map out how you're going to be able to do that in the future is just, I don't think I have a word for it. So. Again, we truly appreciate you taking that on and doing all that. If people are interested in learning more about the services you provide or ways that they can support, what is the best way that they can do that?
So a few ways. Our website is safecoalitionma.org. Our support line is 508-488-8105. That's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Safe Coalition MA. Yeah, we have a TikTok. I don't run it. I don't. It freaks me out. There's too many buttons. So it's funny. Like, we all laugh. I know nothing about TikTok, and we had two ladies who just graduated from KP High in the office last Wednesday, and they were like, whenever I was having a really tough day, I just open up your TikTok, and I'm like, what? Like, that is awesome. That's not coming from me. That's coming from a much younger staff who knows how to do this stuff. But it's just cool, right? That, like, these kids were utilizing this form of social media for their benefit, and I think we're just really learning lessons about how to do that well. Again, growing edges here, but we're getting there. So check us out on social media or our website, or feel free to call us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much
Thank
again,
you.
Jen.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else for Jen?
Thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hearing me. Thank you everything that you do. I love coming to these meetings. I feel like I learned so much. So thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next year. Feel free to reach out anytime. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, that brings us to our next item tonight, which is our general updates, starting with our town administrator updates. Justin, take it away.
Yes, so in the board's packet, I included just a memo, a sort of discussion. June 14th, the MEC Board of Directors met, touch base on one item, the letter of intent agreement, but there was an agenda item to discuss MEC expansion, and so I wanted to keep the board apprised of that. I serve as a board of director as part of the member community and the MEC, and so we had a presentation from Robert Verdone, who's the executive director of SEMREC. And there was, an interactive presentation that we will share with the board, and I believe MEC and SEMREC will put that presentation on their website as well. But there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of opportunity for all the member communities to work together. There's already a lot of work being done together. So they gave a presentation to highlight some opportunities to explore expanding together. Police chiefs, as well as both executive directors were there, as well as a majority of the board of directors. So what we did agree to was allowing the executive directors of both of those organizations to sort of create a working group with the police chiefs and fire chiefs, because there was a lot of optimism, a lot of goodwill, I guess, from everyone in that room to explore expanding. So there's a working group. They will work over the summer to discuss opportunities for expansion. Nothing's in writing or anything, because there are a lot of logistics we would have to look at, particularly this the mech at the police station, what impact does that have if we're looking to expand with SEMREC? But I wanted to keep the board apprised that, that meeting did occur, and I expect we'll have more information in the fall from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, I included in the board's packet a copy from the Collins Center. This is just a professional service agreement with the Collins Center. As the board probably remembers, we did secure community compact grant funding to fund a financial forecast for the town. I really think this is a great opportunity for us to sort of look at our future budgetary challenges and so forth. So I wanted to include the service agreement that we did sign with the Collins Center, but also include a scope of services so people understand what are the deliverables that we're working towards. And we will be working with the Collins Center over the summer to have a financial forecast. And when that work is complete, there will be a public meeting and it will be presented at the select board. And one other item that I did want to and I think it perfectly coincide with the presentation that we had with the open space and recreation plan. The master plan, the survey is closing on July 1st. So we really want to encourage people to go online, complete the survey. You can do that going to the town's website, or there's, physical copies here in Town Hall, easy to get done. We're really trying to encourage community members to, have their say in the direction of the town moving forward. And those are my town minister updates.
Great points. Thank you, Justin. Just a couple of items on my list. I did want to reiterate the importance of filling out the surveys. As of right now, I do believe that we have just under 1,000 completed surveys in a town of just under 12,000. So if you want to have input on the outline, the scope, the vision for what this master plan is going to highlight for Norfolk from now and through 2050, please, the smallest part that one can do is to jump online and do the 9-minute survey to be able to provide some feedback and be able to help us with the prioritization of the initiatives and the scoping of what that plan is going to outline. Further, on Monday evening, we are going to be hosting another community session that is going to be focused on current and prospective small business owners. A big piece of this plan is being able to shape the community from a business aspect along with our business partners. And so this meeting on Monday evening at 7 p.m. at the Grange now, I believe it has moved to because of how much participation we're anticipating, is going to be the opportunity for those small business owners and business partners here in town to come and share that feedback. So Monday, 7 p.m. at the Grange in person, we'll be hosting a community session that is going to be business focused for the master plan planning. Anita, anything for?
I just wanted to thank all of the many planners and people who supported the Norfolk Community Day. It was really special event, and I've always believed that Norfolk is kind of a magical, special place, and at Community Day, it was palpable, just really very special. And so thank you to all the folks who put that together and did all the legwork behind it. And in spite of the weather being a little bit tricky, people came out in droves, and it was really spectacular. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen?
Just to comment on Community Day, where I was unfortunately volunteered to direct traffic for 3.5 hours. Tim Hines, our chief, has told me that I'm now qualified to do traffic duty in the town of Norfolk. They were lined up down Main Street. So one of the things that we got to do is figure out a better way to do it next year, because it did not work. But I have to tell you, everybody was wonderful. I did not have one person yell, scream, get angry, leave.
No, it was
they
fabulous.
were all wonderful. It was a long but fun day, even with all that traffic. But we filled 3 parking lots, first time.
Yes.
Never happened before.
Yes, the volume was unbelievable. The participation was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was great to see so much of the community out there. And I would like to say that the prospect of this community producing a major league pitcher is through the roof now with my time that I spent in that dunk tank. Those kids were unbelievable. I had to have been dunked a good 30 times. It was something to be seen. So I do hope that that video comes out and Major League Scouts are watching. But yeah, all around, I thought it was a fantastic day as well.
Absolutely. Reminds me of that movie Field of Dreams. Like, if you build it, they will come. And wow, a whole team of people really built something very special.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will tell you, they came from all over. I mean, it wasn't just Norfolk. I saw, you can always tell when the kids are running around with Rentham Little League, or, and so on. It's kind of a giveaway, or they stole a shirt, one or the other. But it was really well attended by a number of surrounding communities, which is even better. It's wonderful. It was a very popular day.
No, I saw a select board member from Rentham. I saw a couple select board members from Plainville. I thought it was awesome to see that kind of draw coming into Norfolk.
Absolutely.
People recognizing how special that event is. All right, our next item, I'm sorry, is there any other updates anybody has?
No, just an awareness. I met with Justin today, and I'm going to have a Zoom call, Justin and I, with town council. It's purely for my own benefit of getting current on the legal issues that we're dealing with, because I am a little behind on that. So you folks have got some years of experience that I need to catch up on. So I want to be aware of where we're in litigation and what the issues are around that, so that when the time comes that we need to talk about it, I'll have some background. So just wanted to make you aware that Justin and I are going to do that.
Thank you. Any other updates? All right, that'll bring us to our next item, which is a report of the warrants. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And our last item is to approve some minutes. Do we have minutes to approve?
Do we? No, we don't. We
And that is
will, though, because
not-
I'm retiring.
You're off the hook.
I'm retiring. And then I'll get caught up. I apologize.
With that being our last item on the agenda this evening, I will just throw it around very quickly to see if there's anything else we need to talk about before we break for the evening.
No?
In that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
Motion, second, further discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
I hope everyone has a wonderful